Some of the first Canadians fleeing the Israel-Hamas war arrived in Toronto Friday night. Kinneret Butterfield Morrison told reporters at Toronto Pearson International Airport that the horror of what occurred there is affecting everyone, and the raining of rockets and the trauma that kids are experiencing is just a really sad and difficult time. Butterfield Morrison is one of an estimated 281 Canadian citizens who left Israel Thursday on one of two Canadian Armed Forces evacuation flights following a surprise attack by Hamas last week that left more than 1,300 Israelis dead. She says she was staying with her aunt in Rehoboth, about 30 kilometers southeast of Tel Aviv, when she woke up to air raid sirens. Another passenger on the flight out of Israel by way of Greece was Khalid Karomi, a Syriac Catholic priest from Cambridge, Ontario, who said he was leading a pilgrimage of 40 people to the Holy Land when the war broke out. Orwa announced evacuation flights earlier this week after widespread commercial airline cancellations in the region and a flood of calls from stranded Canadian citizens to council officials. The federal government said Thursday that of the roughly 5,700 Canadians registered in Israel, 1,600 people had expressed interest in potentially seeking assistance departing. At least 4 Canadians have been killed since the violence erupted on October 7, including 2 Canadian men who were killed by Hamas gunmen at a music festival, an Israeli-Canadian mother who was killed in her communal farming settlement, and a 22-year-old Sher Georgi, a Canadian-Israeli who went missing since Hamas ambush at musical festival, was confirmed dead by her family today. Israel has continued its bombardment of the Gaza Strip in retaliation for last Saturday's attack and on Friday issued an evacuation order to some 1 million residents in the region ahead of a looming ground offensive. Roughly 1,800 people have been killed in Gaza as of 7th day of war, according to the health ministry for the territory. There are some 150 Canadians in the Hamas-controlled area, but without a humanitarian corridor in the region, airlifts are not currently possible. Meanwhile, Yara Sachs, Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, who was at Pearson Airport Friday, said the evacuation flights out of Tel Aviv will continue as long as there is a demand to do so. Public safety ministers and law enforcement officials say they are taking public safety seriously amid a growing sense of unrest in Canada related to the Israel-Hamas war. In a joint statement issued earlier this week, federal, provincial and territorial ministers urged unity and respect in the face of calls for protest on Friday from Hamas, which they emphasized the Canadian government labels a terrorist organization. The RCMP, provincial and regional police have stepped up patrols in many regions across the country in recent days to monitor and respond to any potential fallout from the war. Palestinians struggled Saturday to flee from areas of Gaza targeted by Israeli military while grappling with the growing water and medical supply shortage ahead of an expected land offensive a week after Hamas's bloody, wide-ranging attack into Israel. Israel renewed calls on social media and leaflets dropped from the air for Gaza residents to move south, while Hamas urged people to stay in their homes. The UN and aid groups have said a rapid exodus would cause untold human suffering, especially for hospitalized people, older adults, and others unable to relocate. The evacuation directive covers an area of 1.1 million residents, or about half the territory's population. The Israeli military said hundreds of thousands of Palestinians had already heeded the warning and headed south. It said Palestinians could travel within Gaza without being harmed along 2 main routes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. local time. A week after Hamas's attack, Israel was still working to assess the casualties. With special rabbinic approval, workers at a military base in central Israel continued the grueling task of identifying the bodies of Israelis and foreign nationals who were killed, most of them civilians. Work is normally halted on Saturday, the Jewish Sabbath. It was not clear how many Palestinians remain in North Gaza by Saturday afternoon, said a spokesperson for the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees. She said, "What we know is that hundreds of thousands of people have fled and that 1 million people have been displaced in total in 1 week. An estimated 35,000 displaced civilians have crammed into the grounds of Gaza City's main hospital, sitting under trees in the empty grounds as well as inside the building's lobby and corridors, hoping they would be protected from the fighting," medical officials said. Egyptian officials said the country's Rafah border crossing with Gaza would open Saturday for the first time in days to allow foreigners out. One official said both Israel and Palestinian militant groups had agreed to facilitate the departures, but by Saturday evening there had been no movement. There were believed to be some 1,500 people in Gaza holding Western passports and additional people with passports from other parts of the country. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Saudi Arabian Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan in Riyadh on Saturday and both called for Israel to protect civilians in Gaza. Iran has also called Israel to stop its attack on Gaza, warning that the war can expand to other parts of the Middle East if Hezbollah joins the battle, adding that Israel may suffer a huge earthquake. Iranian Foreign Minister told reporters that Lebanon's Hezbollah group has taken all the scenarios of a war into consideration and Israel should stop its attack on Gaza immediately.